Thank you to all my channel members, including my fan appreciation level members and my contributor level members, for helping support the YouTube channel.
Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the Star Trek novel Cold Wars from the New Frontier and Gateways saga. I've never actually read a New Frontier book, but it's part of the series by Peter David that he created that's set in the Next Generation, DS9, Voyager era with some minor Star Trek characters and then some original Star Trek characters. I'd never read any of the books of that series, but because I'm reading the Gateway saga for literary treks, I decided to continue on with this as we are with the podcast. And I was like, you know what, I've never read this before, but I'll give it a shot. And the Gateway Saga, just as a brief overview, is basically a bunch of standalone books that all have to deal with the same concept of these gateways. And this series has been very mixed. It started out not so great with the first book, One Small Step, and Chainmail. Those books were not great, unfortunately, so I didn't really like those. Then we had Doors into Chaos, which was the next-gen book. Phenomenal. Amazing. Fantastic book. And then we had two good, not amazing, but good books with Demons of Air and Darkness, which was the DS9 book, and No Man's Land, which was the Voyager book. Demons of Air and Darkness had some good ideas. The Voyager book had great characters, but they weren't as amazing as, say, Doors into Chaos. So this series is just, it's all over the place quality-wise, and I didn't know how I would feel about this book. And, you know, Peter David's written some stuff I've loved, and he's written some stuff I've not loved. But man, does he write an entertaining story here. This book is so engaging and rapturing from the first chapter to the last. He just holds your attention. And I'm really impressed by the story he told. There are points of it that I'm like, is this a Star Trek story? Because man, his brand of dialogue, the way he writes characters is just so different. Like the characters on the TV shows would never talk the way that Peter David's characters talk, and yet they still feel so vivid and real and well written, and they're just fascinating to read about. The book is essentially about these two peoples that are on two different planets. You have the Aryans and then you have the Marcanians. And they have been ancient enemies who somehow got separated, and both of them are trying to kill the others. And so the Marcanians come and murder the entire Aryan royal family except for one little girl. And which really reminded me of a couple of things. One of the things it reminded me of was the whole Romanov family being killed, and then wondering if there was still a Romanov that survived. It reminded me of that, but it also reminded me of some stuff in current events, like terrorist actions that have happened in the last couple of years. So it was interesting reading about that, and then the two sides keep fighting and escalating, and you have the Excalibur, which is headed by Calhoun, Captain Calhoun, who's the main character of the New Frontier series, and his ship goes to the Aryans to work with them on some stuff, and then Captain Shelby takes her ship, which she's just become the captain of, and she goes to work with the Marcanians. So the two of them, now captains of their ships, now working for basically on the two working to uncover secrets on the two planets, and they believe that gateways are involved. And so the mystery here was great. The action was great. The political tension between the two planets was so vivid. It's so well written. It was also so prescient. Like it fit, the era that Peter David was writing in. It still works today, very much so in today's current events, even though this book was written over 24 years ago. And then you also have some stuff that, it's called Cold Wars. It also fits some kind of Cold War ideas. So, I mean, there's a lot of layers to this book that make it just really fascinating. And Peter David just makes the characters so interesting. Calhoun and Shelby have some great scenes in the book, even though they're not together for pretty much the entire book, because they're having to do stuff over the HoloNet, or they're trying to communicate otherwise. And oh man, the negotiation scene, there's a protracted negotiation scene about like 2/3 the way through. Brilliant scene. masterfully written scene. I was spent the whole scene being like, it can't go down like this. It just can't go down like this. There's got to be another way. And I was very interested in the way that Peter David wrote it. I mean, I kind of figured it out, but man, he did a great job pulling me in. And there's some mysteries about the girl who survives, the general who is kind of taking care of her, what's going to happen to the Aaron people. There's just a lot of great mysteries and a lot of great twists that the story takes. And the other stories, that in the saga, like these ones were good, but they just lacked that element that just like pulled me in, was like, I gotta find out what happens. At least for Voyager, I love the characters so much that I kind of felt that way just because I want to read about the characters of Voyager. Like, I feel like even if a Voyager novel is bad, I still have a blast because it's great to hang out with those characters. But this was an example of not only were the characters great, but the story was so good. And despite never having read the New Frontier series, I really want to go out, buy the New Frontier series, and read all of it, because if they're all this entertaining, oh boy, is that going to be a great series. I do need to do, when I'm done with this, do a whole video on a retrospective of the Gateway Saga as a whole, because it's been very uneven, and I think it could have been better, and I think addressing that would be good. But man, this book in particular was just spectacularly written. The some of the stuff, there's 2 crew members who join the ships during the book, and they are used fascinatingly well. You have Maress on one ship, and then on the other ship, I am blanking on the character's name. I can picture him. Oh yes, it's Fetus. Because he gets made fun of. Fetus is more in the first half of the book, and Maress is more in the second half of the book, but they were great new additions to the crews on these ships, and their predicaments that they found themselves in were quite fascinating. I also thought that the way that the little girl was written was really interesting. I was really invested in her story. I also felt bad for some of the characters who kind of like are just following orders and having to follow along. And this book is also so funny, and I'm pretty sure it's intentionally funny on Peter David's part, but there's so many characters who will say something like deadpan, and it's just hilarious. Or the character will have just the perfect rebuttal or perfect response, or there are so many great references to old books, old movies, old shows, and Peter David gets away with it because that character happens to be, a fan of old books, and so that character references them. In the case, those aren't that old to us because, they came out recently to us. So it was just really creative ways of getting pop culture references in the story without it feeling inorganic. It really did feel like it matched what it needed to do. And so I was grinning so much of this book. I was also horrified at some of the stuff that he does in this book, but I was grinning at so much of it because so much of it is just delightfully fun to read their dialogue. And there's times where I'm like, Starfleet people don't talk like that. Like the way that Calhoun talks to Admiral Jellicoe in this book, whew, man, does he get away with stuff no other captain would. Maybe Kirk. Maybe, but even Kirk is not that disrespectful to his superiors. But man, I enjoyed that. So all I have left is the short story collection, which is actually a pretty big book. I have the short story collection, then I'm done with the Gateway Saga. So I'll read the short story collection next month, and then I'll have a review of the series and a post-mortem and all that stuff. So that is my review of Star Trek Gateways New Frontier, Book 6 of 7, Cold Wars. If you've read Cold Wars, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.